Good afternoon, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your second video blog of the day for Monday, May 18th, 2015, around 3:27 in the afternoon, Billerica, Massachusetts. Nice and sunny. It's about 60 degrees out. Feels a little cooler than yesterday, but it's May and we'll sometimes get those temperatures up and down, up and down. Some news to report: the Miami Marlins named a new manager, and it's their general manager, Dan Jennings. He named himself the field manager. Dan Jennings has never managed in Major League Baseball or the minors. The last time he managed any kind of baseball was 31 years ago for like high school and stuff. I don't know if this is a good move or not. And the New England Patriots re-signed Brandon Spikes, linebacker, to a one-year contract. And that's about it on the news. My next subject is about the classic television series, The Twilight Zone. The Twilight Zone was a science fiction, drama, fantasy, anthology series, and it lasted for 5 seasons on CBS from October 2nd, 1959 through June 19th, 1964. The executive producer, narrator, creator of the show was Rod Sterling, and Rod wrote 92 of the 156 episodes of The Twilight Zone. Rod was a famous television writer back in the 50s and stuff. He wrote for several television anthology series such as Kraft's Television Theater, Playhouse 90, and Desilu's Play Theater. And he was a good science fiction writer and stuff. He was very great, and he wanted to have his own television series. In 1959, CBS gave him his own television series to narrate and produce with The Twilight Zone. And The Twilight Zone was usually half-hour episodes for the first 3 seasons. In season 4, they had an hour-long episode of The Twilight Zone, and in the 5th season, they reverted back to a half hour. And all of the Twilight Zone episodes, Rod Sterling would appear on camera narrating episode of The Twilight Zone, and all of the episodes of The Twilight Zone were they didn't have any recurring characters because it was an anthology series and stuff, and some of the acting in The Twilight Zone was very amazing and stuff, very spooky, very supernatural, and somewhat scary and stuff. It was a mix of science fiction, horror, drama, fantasy, all into one. And some of the biggest stars in entertainment was on The Twilight Zone when they had an anthology series, because there was no recruiting characters. Adam West, Jack Klugman, Robert Redford, Leonard Nimoy, Charles Bronson, Elizabeth Montgomery, Buddy Epson, William Shatner, James Corbin, and so many others were in The Twilight Zone. Have a single episode with them and stuff. Burgess Meredith, Don Rickles, Jonathan Winters, and on and on and on. There were some classic episodes which was amazing, especially with Nightmare at 20,000 Feet with William Shatner. That's probably one of the most famous Twilight Zone episodes of all time. And The Twilight Zone got pretty good ratings for CBS over the years, even though it wasn't a ratings winner, but it got decent ratings. And it had this scene to do 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 do. You unlock this key for the key of imagination. With it, it's a sight of dimension, a sight of sound. Your destination's up ahead. The next stop, The Twilight Zone. That was one of the tags of The Twilight Zone and stuff like that. First 3 seasons of The Twilight Zone, it was a half-hour episodes. Like during the 1962-1963 season, Twilight Zone was a mid-season replacement for CBS, and it was it had hour-long episodes, probably about 17 of them. Season 5, the last season, was back reverted to a half-hour form. The cancellation of the Twilight Zone happened when one of the heads of CBS says the show was getting too predictable and stuff, and the ratings were declining and stuff, and they canceled it in the middle, like at the end of the 5th season. Rod Serling was a little mad because he was focusing more and more on it and stuff, and he says the show had a few more seasons to go. He tried to sell it to ABC, but ABC really wanted to rebrand the show called Werewolves, Witches, and wolves and werewolves, or like warriors and stuff. Rod Serling did not like the name of that show. He wanted to keep the Twilight Zone and stuff like that because he owned the name of the Twilight Zone. After the Twilight Zone was canceled, Rod Serling sold his share of the Twilight Zone to CBS, and CBS kept it, and they like produced it, and like when they had the reruns in syndication and stuff, which was a very big hit in syndication, and they revived the Twilight Zone as a movie in 1983, and also like several other series from in 1985, A New Twilight Zone, and 2002, another one, but they weren't as good as the original ones as well. Rod Serling passed away at the age of 50 in 1975. He had a major heart attack and stuff. He was a very creative writer, Rod Serling, and stuff, and he's probably one of the best science fiction television writers of all time and stuff. Twilight Zone is probably in the top 10 of greatest science fiction shows of all time, and you could catch the Twilight Zone on MeTV, and also the Decades Television Network, and other ones, including Sci-Fi. And that's about it on the Twilight Zone. Be back for the third and final video blog of the night, which will be about the Pittsburgh Penguins dynasty in 1991 and 1992 when they won back-to-back Stanley Cups. Goodbye, everybody.